Live from the westernunion.com VIP lounge.
Truth Live, Rebel Pop Radio. We are here. The man, local rap legend, internet rap legend, Locksmith, new album, Lofty Goals. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. How you doing, brother?
Pleasure to have you. Glad to have you.
Be here.
So just getting right into it, you know, greatness and being the best might not be the same thing as far as like criteria, right? Like if we were talking like who's the greatest MCs, there might be a whole list of criteria, you know, with success, rhyme skills. There might be a lot of things we go to, but
a lot of factors, yeah.
A lot of factors. So if we're just going right to being the best, and I don't mean to be too patronizing, but I tell a lot of people, like, I consider you the best at the actual art form of MCing, rhyming, rapping. So I want to know, as a fan, what's it feel like to know that you're better than everybody else?
Well, man, I mean, like you said, man, being better or being the best, that's all subjective, you know? I mean, that's perception. I feel like every rapper should feel like they're the best. You know what I mean? Or anything you do, you want to be the best, you know, that you can be. So I try to focus on that, man. If I worry about like feeling like I'm the best or being better than other people, then I feel like that's putting a little bit too much pressure on myself. But I try to be the best artist, be the best human being that I can be. And if you do that, then everything else kind of falls into place. But I appreciate it, man, when people come up and tell me like, yo, I think you're one of the best, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's a sense of pride, you know, and accomplishment. So it feels good.
Right, and I mean, I consider myself a very like staunch, like difficult person to impress. On the rhyme side of things, you've had a interesting trajectory where you've had separate categories. I'm not sure exactly how to articulate your career.
A lot of people know me for different things. Like some people know me for battle rapping. Some people know me for when I was in a group. Some people know me from freestyle. Some people know me for my songs. They're not even aware of any of that history. It's like a gift and a curse, but I'm appreciative for it all, you know?
Right, I would say, I think your story is unique in the sense that you've been able to actually push all those things forward and still have momentum and traction rather than fizzle out or just be, you know, pigeonholed to one particular thing. Yeah. And specifically listening to Lofty Goals, the new album right here, it seems that there's been like a maturity. I don't mean to imply like on a personal level that you're not mature or that there hasn't always been a maturity to the music, but on the production side of maybe more like opening up, more vulnerability, more risk-taking. It's a very soulful feeling album to me. How did you get from, I think a battle, not even MTV battle, I think it was like a Wolf. KML
you going back in history.
I think that's what it was. To get to arrive to where you're at right now. Like, was that a natural progression?
Well,
or what
for
was
one,
like
I had an afro back then. So that was the biggest difference. When you have an afro, it's just a different aura you have about yourself. You know, you walk around like, look, I got an afro. But so once I cut the afro off, man, you get older and you mature, and then hopefully your art, if you're being honest with yourself, I think it starts from being honest with yourself. You know, I strive to be honest with myself, who I am. If you do that, then I think it's going to reflect in your art form. It's going to show in what you do, whatever it is. You can be, you know, a garbage man. You can be a first grade teacher. You can be a businessman. Like, if you grow as a human being, the way you perceive the world is going to change, and it's going to show in whatever you do. So I just try to be honest with that, man. And I always believe that if you're honest and you're honest with your art, people can appreciate that. It may take a little while. And, you know, sometimes you may doubt it or you may be insecure, but if you kind of stick to it and you know that, hey, man, this is who I am, because you can't change who you are. I mean, you can change and better, you can evolve, but essentially who you are is who you are. You don't want to try to conform or be somebody that you're not. So if you put that out there, I feel like those are all the successful people, you know, who've had longevity. They're who they are, and you kind of like them for that, even through the ups and downs, the peaks and the valleys, and I just want to give people that. And I don't know, I think that's kind of like what brings me to who I am. That's definitely what Lofty Goals is about.
Yeah, you can hear the honesty. You've always been able to hear the honesty in your music from the very beginning. From the first time I heard a song from you, not rapping. I think What Is It is the first song I actually heard.
What is it?
Yeah, that was almost going to be my first question. What is it? But, you know, it seems that there's a different comfort zone and a willingness to be more vulnerable with the content, not just artistically, like lyrically, but also in the production. A lot of people may have come up on your music earlier, may have like a certain conception of what the sound was, where sonically you're breaking a lot of new ground, not just on this album, but there's been like a progressive, arriving to this place.
Yeah, man, thank you for noticing that. Yeah, like I said, it goes back to the maturity as a human being and as an artist. If you're an artist, your sound should grow. And it has a lot to do with the last 2 projects I produced a lot of it myself, as well as along with my production partner, Mike Blankenship. So we kind of sat down. I was like, yo, I have these ideas and, these different kind of drum patterns. And so the music is kind of catered towards the message that I want to convey, as opposed to me having to fit the beat, which is what you want to do sometimes. You know what I mean? It just all depends. But I think when you're trying to make songs, I don't know if I would be able to make some of those songs if I wasn't able to create the soundscape myself, to lay like the bed down, so to speak, so I can like really get into what I want to get into. Because sometimes I've worked with producers all the time, and it's like, yo, I can't, it's like the beat is telling me one thing, but in my heart, I got something else I want to say. So you have to find that medium. But now it's like, if I have the access and I'm making the music myself and I'm sitting down, then it's like, all right, I can convey exactly what I want to convey. And it takes time to get to that level. You know what I mean? Some people can do it immediately, but it took me a little bit of time to get there.
Well, I'm not sure if this is a statement or a question, but I can't really think of any other people who have translated from the battle world to the songwriting world, which is things you've touched on, and even some of your, I think it's the team backpack freestyle of, where you're going at like, a lot of MCs with commercial success, but then at the end you kind of came back around of a lot of these dudes, without calling anyone out on the stage right here, are just rapping about rap, so you actually have made songs, like you had, these are things that hold their own validity outside of your skill set of the technique of rapping.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know, man. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that I'm able, like, I feel like if you're honest with yourself, the things like battling and all that kind of stuff, it made me who the artist that I am today. Like, I had to go through those things, and it's still a part of me, But I feel like, I don't know, you just kind of have to be a little bit of, I guess, fearless. You know what I mean? A little bit like, yo, I don't care. Like, I mean, you're talking, like you said, you're talking about vulnerable things. I mean, when you're from a battle world, it's all about bravado, But I feel like in today's world, man, I mean, people they don't want to be lied to. They want to hear something they can relate to. And sometimes, I can't be a superhero all the time. I can't walk around like, yo, I'm, with my cape on, like, yo, I'm just a human being. Sometimes I went through this, so this is why I feel kind of bad about this, or I feel good about this today. And I feel like if you put that in your songs, people can identify with that. That was like, yo, man, that happened to me, or something like that happened to me. And you just gotta step out on the ledge and do it.
Well, and I think to your credit, you also really have like nothing to prove as like an MC's MC. It's very well established.
Thank you.
Does it, taking that route, and now you're making these songs, and you're touching people in a different way. I follow you, on social media, and it seems like the fans that you have really genuinely and sincerely connect with you. What is that like for an artist? The feeling for you knowing that you're doing something so personal and intimate, and then you get this final product, and then the kind of response you may get, not necessarily in the scope of the audience, but in the sincerity in the response.
I mean, it's the most rewarding thing possible. I mean, that's the best feeling, is to someone like come up to you and say, yo, I relate to that. This changed me. Like, to me, that's more powerful than that's more powerful than somebody like, yo, you're the dopest out. You know what I mean? Like that, I appreciate that, because you do want to be the best. But I feel like in order to really be the best, like one of the, I mean, like people always ask me, who do I feel is like the best rapper? And I always say, I feel like, to me, my personal opinion, growing up where I grew up, and how I feel like JayZ is the best rapper, but I feel like Pac is the greatest rapper. That's just how I look at it.
I share the exact same sentiments.
Yeah, like, to me, and then I like a lot of other people. Those aren't the only, like, I love from the older artists like Big Daddy Kane and Rakim, all the way to the newer artists like, some of the homies from the Bay, like HBK and all those guys. I love, and everything in between. But when you're talking about like longevity, I always feel like JayZ is the best, and I feel like Pac is the greatest, because Pac, just because of some of his messages and some of his songs and the anger and the passion, the sadness, it's like I really connected with that. And I think Eminem, especially early on, was really great with that as well. So those are like, I don't know, I feel like it's a lot more gratification when you get people saying like, yo, I connected with that.
Right. I mean, when you can actually touch human beings outside of what's considered technically gifted or skilled within the art form, like musically, that's ultimately the goal right there.
Yeah.
Are there other contemporaries that you listen to that inspire you and influence you, like dudes currently doing it that you're like, man, that dude is really getting it right now?
Yeah, I mean, I really, of course, I love Kendrick. I really like, I love Drake, J. Cole, like those guys, as far as like being able to mix lyricism and songwriting and make it accessible. I think that's really, there's something to commend about that. You know what I mean? Where you can respect somebody as a lyricist, because I ain't gonna lie, like I listen to that, like that's what I listen to. I want to listen to the lyrics and I want to hear the beat, but I want to hear a full song. And when I hear guys like that who can kind of mix it up on that scale, also Childish Gambino, I like stuff that he does. These are guys that I kind of, when we're talking about mainstream stuff, like that have that kind of success, but still able to keep their credibility as artists and as lyricists. I really like what they do.
Shifting gears a little bit, but you mentioned Drake, and I feel it's only obligatory the timing we're at right now with the whole Drake and Meek thing, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to go where you're going with it. Ghostwriting. Has ghostwriting been something that you've ever done or would consider pursuing?
Yeah, I've done ghostwriting before. I've written for people before in the past. I mean, it is a part. It's just. All right, I don't know what question you want me to answer, so I'm going to ask. Yes, I have ghost.
That's all you had to say.
I have ghost written for people. It is a part of hip hop. Whether you think it's good or bad in different situations, I guess it all depends on the situation. But I have ghost written.
We're talking a lot about like lyrics and content and message driven, like true emceeing. Yeah. Being from the Bay Area, when I've traveled musically, domestically, abroad, it's not something that the Bay Area is particularly known for, although we've had some greats. Yeah. Do you find it more difficult to be accepted as that person because you're from the Bay Area, or has there been any kind of different response like, oh, he's from the Bay, like we don't have to take him seriously? Well,
you talking about within the Bay, or are you talking about like nationally?
Outside of the Bay, because I feel like we get caught in a little bit of a bubble sometimes here of our own world.
I kind of like it because it catches people off guard. You know what I mean? There's no expectation. You know what I mean? So it's just like, whoa, oh, you're from the Bay? You know what I mean? So it's kind of easier. So, yeah, I kind of look at it. I don't really take it as a negative. I mean, I kind of use it as a motivating factor, because it's less pressure on you. And then people, even go back to the days when I was on the MTV battle. I think
which you won, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, which was 2003. And, it was basically all East Coast rappers. And but I had the confidence. I was like, I'm going to do this. But I think one of the biggest benefits that I had is that people didn't know who I was. They didn't know, like, and then next thing you know, it's like, he's beating everybody. So, like, I used it as my benefit. Like, these cats are sleeping on me, but they're not going to sleep, by the time it gets to the end.
The Bay, San Francisco is, the most internationally recognized city in the Bay and one of the most internationally recognized cities, period.
For sure.
But who would you say is, like, San Francisco's MC in hip-hop? Like, it's kind of odd that, to me, nobody jumps out as like, oh, this dude is San Francisco. Like, you could say JayZ or Nas or New York or Biggie. I
mean, you looking at him.
San Francisco? Like, I mean, within the city of San Francisco, not even the Bay.
The whole city? I mean, you have some dope lyricists. I mean, cats that I always grew up and loved was San Quinn. I mean, he's from San Francisco. And forgive me, I know I'm probably missing, but Quinn is probably the one who has the most history. Shout out to Quinn and all those guys, because he's been a friend of mine for years. But aside from that, he was when I was coming up, Quinn, when I was like wanting to rap and I saw videos on the, TV and late night, you see these local videos on the box. I don't know how many people remember that, but like you watching that stuff and I saw Quinn, I was like, this dude is from where the Bay Area or from San Francisco. He was like really spitting. Mac Mall was one of those guys. You know what I mean? They were like, like guys in the Bay that were like, if you listen, these guys are spitting lyrics.
What about, you think there's somebody outside of the Bay Area that people look to that are like, that's the San Francisco MC? Like, I was having trouble coming up with somebody. I was thinking about influences who I was making presumptions about who you may or may not have been influenced by. And I couldn't really think of a lot of somebody that then I started thinking outside of our world, because the Bay Area tends to get locked in our own little box, I feel, musically, where we pay attention to what's going on here, but we don't realize how we're perceived. And I think in turn that's had a negative impact on some of the commercial success of Bay Area artists because they're worried about a Bay Area mentality, not a whole world mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, there might not be an answer to that question. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. You know, it's like I think the Bay is a beautiful place because we're so diverse. We have such great musical influences. I mean, there's so much talent here. There's not one. I don't feel like there's a Bay sound. I know people try to say there is, but really there isn't. That's the Bay sound, is that there isn't. You know, it's so diverse. I mean, there's not too many places in our country or even on the globe that's just like diverse like the Bay Area. It's so welcoming. Like, we're so welcoming for everything. So for that, our music is like that. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I want to commend you on continually expanding the musical horizons, but also still not taking bars off. I really appreciate that as a listener, that it doesn't seem like there's ever any filler on anything that you're doing without being too abrasive at the same time. So walking that line, I really appreciate that. Anyone who's really trying to check some really dope hip-hop, if you don't know about Lofty Goals right here, you really, really need to go find that. Check it out. I'm certain you'll be impressed. Anyone who knows me personally or familiar with what I'm representing, I am hypercritical of MCs, and I don't think there's anyone in the game outdoing you right now. There might be some dudes, you know, also doing it, but I don't think there's anyone out-rapping you.
Thank you.
Lofty Goals, Locksmith, Truth Live, Rebel Pop Radio, Wild 94.9. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Yes. Hey, man, you know, it's a pleasure, brother. It was a pleasure. Some good questions.